All right, Arav is here from Goa, India.
More people from India. Awesome.
We have Ahmed from Egypt.
Wow. Awesome. Pizza, Egypt. Okay. Afghanistan.
Hi,
Wonderful.
Salia. Hi,
No,
Noble.
Nigeria. Wow. Okay. We've got it like the whole world coming today.
So, for people who just joined, we're just sharing a little bit about where we're all from in the chat, a very low effort activity. So, please feel free to let us know which part of the world you're all joining us from.
I'm from Canada. Someone's asking in the questions. I'm from Canada, but I live in Barcelona, Spain.
All right, should we start in 2 minutes, Sapna?
Yeah, I think yeah, just a couple more people are coming in here. Got
Yes.
Haseen coming in.
You're able to see the people in the waiting room, right? Just in case I forget to admit people.
Yeah,
If at all you see anyone come up, just feel free to admit them.
sure.
Hi, Imtiaz.
Okay, we have Elsa joining as well. Guys, if you're just joining, feel free to tell us where you're from. We've got people from all over the world today, so it's super exciting here. Hi, MTS from Bangladesh.
All right, I think we can begin and people will keep joining in along the way, but we can just start off. Is that okay, Sapna?
That's perfect. Go ahead.
All right, okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Kushi, and I'm an associate here at Rise Research. It's lovely to be here. So, again, thanks for taking the time to join. And I'm just going to take a minute to introduce our key speaker for today and Dr. Sapna Sehgal. Sapna is an Oxford educated college admissions consultant and also the founder of Dr. Sapna Consulting. And basically, she is a wizard when it comes to writing standout essays and essentially helps college admissions become seamless and really stress free for students like yourself. Sapna has over 20 years of teaching experience and over 8 years of experience in guiding applicants to top universities, including the Ivy Leagues. And yeah, so it's really, really nice to have you, Sapna, to have you join us today.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, before we get into anything, there's still people joining in. But if you all have any questions along the way, please feel free to raise your hands or drop it in the chat box. We'll be happy to address them, keep the session as interactive as possible. So yeah, I think Sapna, you can take over.
Okay, I'm pumped. I'm super excited to be here. So thank you very much for having me. And I'm going to help you go through the college admissions blueprint today. And we're going to talk about how you can excel and get into your dream school in an increasingly competitive landscape here. Okay, so who is this webinar for? You're in the right place if you're the parents of juniors, okay? Or you're a teen, you have ambitious teens, or even if you're planning ahead. Sophomores are welcome too, or even younger. It's always good to plan ahead. So we're welcoming all of you here today and can't wait to get into it. So just to give you a very brief background of who I am, I'm Canadian. I grew up in Canada. I have degrees in multiple things, including business and marketing, and then also education. And I've kind of had dual careers and lived in 6 different countries. So I've kind of been all over the place. And I worked in education for a while. I worked in Oxford University admissions after doing my master's there. And then I came to Barcelona to do my PhD and become a professor here. And now I'm working freelance. The best way that I love to work is working directly with students and helping them achieve their dreams. So that's now kind of my dream career. Um, I have a 97% student success rate. Most of my students get into where it is they're aiming, one of the top schools they wanted to get into. Um, you know, and we start early, we make sure that they have the guidance that they need along the way, right? So I'm going to take you through. This is just a slide with some of the acceptances from last year. This year's are just kind of wrapping up, so I'll be able to send out that information to you as well. But I have students in undergraduate mostly, some graduate students, and they've gotten into Ivy Leagues and top 50 schools, and they've gotten into other schools like art schools, performing arts schools, kind of in line with whatever dreams and career ambitions they have. Right, so we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But why are you here today? So, by the end of this webinar, you're going to know 3 main things. Number one, how to build your best profile for college applications. So, I'm going to talk to you about that first. Okay. And then I'm going to pass it over to Rise Research, and they're going to take you through. They have one of the best programs out there for research. They've got amazing results, and they're going to talk about when you're building your profile, why research is a crucial part that gives you an edge in today's very competitive landscape. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the application numbers out there now, the acceptance rates that have come out. Some schools that used to have 20% acceptances now have 11%, and it's getting super competitive. So you'll learn why research is going to give you an edge. And then you're going to come back to me after you've heard from Rise. And we're going to talk about essays and the worst assumption that parents make and that teenagers make about their essays. Okay, your GPA is not enough. The essays are crucial, and you're going to hear about the mistakes. So make sure you're staying till the end so you get that juicy information. Okay, and then of course, like we said, if you have questions during, you can feel free to go ahead and drop a message. If you have questions at the end, there'll be lots of time for that as well. Excuse me. So let's get into it. The number one mistake I see parents make, okay, teenagers too, but mostly parents. I know you guys are in charge of the planning. Um, they start building a profile for their kid too late. Okay, so the reason that 95% of my students succeed is that we started early. Let's see if someone has a question here. No. Okay. So you want to start early enough that your student doesn't get stressed throughout the process. And as a college counselor, I can guide them through the process, but the earlier you start, the better advantage you're giving them. Okay. If you're thinking it's too early to start with college essays, it's not. Okay. Especially juniors. You should be starting already. Okay, this is an example from my student Hema from a couple of years ago. She got into her dream school, but she started early. She started in March of junior year, or April of junior year, which is now for a lot of you. Okay, and we had time to work through her essays during the summer. We had time to really work on her profile. Okay, she had a strong GPA. She had lots of activities, but she didn't have a clear spike. So a clear story of, this is like the one thing I'm passionate about, and this is what's gonna make me stand out. So we went into all of the things that she'd done, and we were able to come up with a spike and position her the way that she needed to be positioned for her dream schools. Her degree is in computer science, and the most interesting thing happened. What happened is she ended up choosing UIUC, which is actually the best in the country for computer science, over Berkeley, which was her dream school, after she did a tour. So college counselors can also help you decide, you know, which option is actually best for you. But if you give yourself the time to apply everywhere that you can, you have more options as well, right? So what actually gets you in? What is this profile I keep talking about that you need to build? Okay. So what most families focus on, let's look on the left here. GPA, class rank, it's important, of course, but it's not everything. SAT, ACT scores. Again, if you're aiming for the Ivy Leagues, with the exception of Columbia, that's still optional. You need a high SAT score. However, it's not the only thing, and for many schools, it doesn't matter. The AP classes, the long list of clubs, I should be doing lots and lots of things. What do they actually want? Admissions officers, when I talk to them and when we see what they're evaluating, they want a clear theme. They want to know who you are, especially in the US. If you're applying to the UK, it's a whole different beast, okay? But I can help you with both. I've lived in both places. They want a different type of personal statement, so don't we can work on that. But admissions officers, especially in the US at top schools, they want a clear spiker theme, okay? They want depth over breadth. Okay, so it's not just a ton of activities, but I'm going deep into these activities and I'm making an impact. Okay, they want strategic summer experiences. This does not mean, okay, this does not mean I pay $9,000 to go to Cornell's pre-college school or 5,000 to go to Yale's pre-college summer course and then I'm good. That's so much money and they charge so much money for those. And sometimes I mean, they could be a good experience, but that doesn't mean it's going to give you an edge in building your profile. So when you talk to a college counselor, we can assess these things. What's worth it? What's not? Um, and admissions officers want essays that have an authentic voice. We're going to talk about that at the end of the session. Okay. Some schools really care about demonstrated interest, and college counselors can help you figure out which schools do care and which ones don't care, and what you should do if it's on your list to get into one of those that does care. And of course, developing a compelling narrative, right? Okay. And here, if we take a look here at why you may not want to do this process alone, okay? Um, Guidance through this process will give you a clear roadmap to follow so you can breathe. Okay, I see so many panicked parents every year. Like, what do I do? My kid's in grade 9, my kid's in grade 10. I don't know what to do. My kid's in grade 12. We haven't started thinking about it yet. What do I do? Right? I'm going to give you a clear roadmap to follow, or any good college counselor will help you make a good college list. Okay, understand realistic expectations. Okay, I'm going to apply to Harvard. Am I going to get in? Well, they have a 2% acceptance rate, so probably not, but you want to keep the reach out there, and you also want to apply to other reaches and other ones that are more likely, and build your profile in the best way possible, right? You'll have less stress throughout the process because you'll know that your teen is being guided by someone who has done this process hundreds of times, okay? And then if we take a look at what a professional counselor can do for you that maybe you might not be able to do by yourself, is help you brainstorm the best essay strategy. In my opinion, essays are the most difficult and the most demanding and important part of your application because even if you have an amazing profile, if you can't express yourself well, the colleges are not going to be intrigued by your profile, right? Okay, we can plan your profile for you. We can help you with that. We can calm your teen's fears because imagine, parents, imagine when you were 17 years old. Like, take a minute to think about that for a second and remember how you felt. You know, you don't know what where your future is. You're scared about what's going to happen. You're not sure what the right path is. Maybe you have a dream, but you're not sure it's the right way to go. You know, college counselors can help calm your teen's fears as well, and also help them enjoy the process because it should be fun to have the opportunity to decide what you're going to do with your future. And so I want your teens to actually enjoy this as well. So it's another reason to not go at it alone. Okay, and we help them find their voice to create authentic essays. Lots of students struggle with finding voice, and stay tuned till the third part, till the end of this webinar, because we are going to talk more about how to develop authentic essays, okay? But just know that college counselors can help you with that. And very importantly, we also help you find volunteer and summer experiences that fit. So ones that are a good fit for your profile and a good fit for you. I don't want you to just go to a summer program because it exists and it has an Ivy League name on it. Okay. You might want to try something like Rise's program, which is awesome, and they have had so many great results helping teens get published with research, right? So that's one example. But we can give you lots of examples of internships and other things that you can be doing and help you find those to take some of the stress off you. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it over to Rise, and they're going to talk to you about one of those summer or even during the term programs that you can take that will help you have a spike and help you create the profile that you need. Okay, so I'll hand it back over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hi again. So I am just going to start off with a small introduction about RISE. So could we just move to the next slide, please? Sapna, I think you'll have to yeah, all right. So yes, these are our two founders, Yash and Shreyans. And Yash has a background in computer science. He worked at Meta and Amazon as a software engineer. Shreyans has a background in finance and worked at DE Shaw and got an MBA from Columbia Business School. Before they both met and decided that this is something that they want to pursue because a lot of their peers, when it came to universities in the US, had some kind of research experience, and this is something that they wanted to explore further. And yeah, could we move to the next slide, please? So Rai started a little we've been doing this for a little over 2 years now, and I'm going to start off very simple with the pyramid analogy. So this is a very useful way to understand how universities evaluate students. And I know that Sapna sort of touched upon this. And this isn't something that we've created in isolation, and Sapna would agree, because when we're in this business, we have ongoing conversations with admission officers and counselors and people who are directly involved in evaluating applications. And at RISE, we stay in regular touch with these stakeholders. So this model really reflects how they think about student and student profiles. At the base, you have your academics. So you have your grades, you have your subject choices and course rigor. And this is essential. It shows that you are academically prepared. But the reality is that most applicants to competitive universities already have strong academics. So it's more of a given these days. So while it's necessary, it is not enough to really set you apart on its own. And the next layer that comes in is activities, which includes everything from your clubs to competitions to internships, volunteering, leadership roles, etc. And this is something that shows engagement. It shows that you're taking initiative beyond the classroom. But again, a large number of students have strong activities. So the question really becomes what creates a differentiation? And that's where the top layer, sort of comes in. Research is something that represents engaging with a subject in a much more long term and intentional manner. So it's not just a student saying, I'm interested in biology. It's the student saying that, hey, I spent months exploring a specific problem that I'm excited about within biology. I read about it and I developed something around it and I developed something of my own. And this is the level of depth that, makes a very strong candidate stand out. Could we move to the next slide, please? So why does research matter? Where does research fit in? So the shift from like more of like a broad interest and having a lot of extracurriculars to depth, just not having that many extracurriculars, but just one thing that you have explored in depth and in detail. Is where research really becomes important. So, universities today are trying to understand the kind of person that you are and how you really think. So, not just what you know, but how you approach a problem, how you handle any kind of ambiguity, and how you develop your ideas. And I would say that this has become even more relevant now. Let's just talk about how powerful AI is becoming. So access to information is no longer a differentiator. Anyone can look things up, anyone can summarize content or generate answers. So what matters more is original thinking, the ability to ask good questions, and the ability to work through something that doesn't have a clear answer. And again, at the same time, application pools have become much larger. So universities are really looking for clearer signs of depth and initiative, and research is something that provides that. It helps showcase academic depth and curiosity. It helps you gain expertise on a specific topic that you are interested in, and it also helps you stand out for admissions. Because in research, there isn't really a fixed path. No one is giving you step by step instructions. It's more of you asking the question, you deciding how to explore it, and you being the one refining your thinking over time. Um, so yeah, we also have noted some kind of ideal traits that colleges and universities look for in students, because they're not just evaluating your achievements, they're really just trying to understand the student behind those achievements. And there are a few traits that consistently come up, and one is genuine interest. Uh, you know, saying that it's going beyond I like this subject. It's more of how much time are you spending engaging with the subject that you like. The second is execution and discovery. So taking an idea and actually doing something with it. So structuring it, developing it, seeing it through from end to end. And the third is a self-starter attitude, being able to take initiative without needing constant direction. And research is one single thing that naturally brings all these traits out, because the process itself requires you to take ownership of the work that you're doing. Not sure how many parents have joined us, but just to briefly acknowledge those the parents that are on the call and your parents as well, like the students that are here. Definitely, parents do not play a passive role here. Even small things make a huge difference. So, encouraging your child to ask questions, to explore interests beyond just exams, and to think independently. Those are all habits that support and make a conducive environment for the child to explore their own interest. And let's not forget that research never happens in isolation. It develops in the kind of environment where curiosity is supported, not only supported but encouraged. And we always like to say that a student's development is most effective when parents and mentors work as partners. So in the next few slides, we're just going to skim over some numbers and data points. So for those of you who like looking at things quantitatively, this will be useful. So these are some top universities in the US. Let's start off with Caltech. 45% of students who were admitted in Caltech included original research in their applications. And nearly one third of students who got accepted to Penn did research in their high school. Stanford admissions officers have, used the term called intellectual vitality, which is valuing students who are, really, really keen and eager to explore. And Harvard's highest academic rating is based on strong scholarship and creative thinking, and that increases acceptance by almost 8 times, which is definitely not a small number at all. So, how many of you know what the Common App is? Could we just have a quick show of virtual hands? It's completely okay if you don't. Just want to get an understanding. Okay, Hannah knows what it is. Manya knows what it is. All right. All right, that's great. So, for people who don't know, that's completely okay. The Common App is an application that students use to apply to different universities in the US. And this is a section of the Common App where the student is applying to Columbia University. And if you look at this, the research supplement is optional, but there is a space for in the activity section for the student to include original research that is done by them. And optional is, just frankly because I mean, a lot of students might feel this way here, but it's optional because a lot of students think that research is something that's beyond their scope or not of value. And that's exactly what we're trying to, that's exactly the kind of myth that we want to bust over here. While research is something that's optional, we'll see in the next few slides how valuable it really is to other universities as well. And let's not forget, Columbia University has a very narrow 4.2 acceptance rate. This is the Caltech application page. And if you zoom in, there's also an area for you to include your original research. They've also sort of talked about what kind of research you can include, if it's a published paper, or if you need a letter of recommendation. So the process is quite intricate. And when someone has done research, it also gives you an edge because they will be taking a Viva exam and they will be sort of assessing how much you really know about your subject. And when you've done research, it really helps you prepare for an exam like a Viva exam, where you're going to be talking to someone in depth about the subject that you have explored. And Caltech has an even narrower 3.1% acceptance rate. So similarly, in the UK, similar to the Common App, we have the Universities and Common Admissions Service, and that is what students use to apply to universities in the UK. And they recently changed their personal statement question. And the third question asks a student what sort of extracurricular activity they have done outside of their academics to sort of prepare them for university and university level work. And this is a place where you can include the spike that Sapna was referring to. And what we believe that spike can be for some students is research. Similarly, we have research in Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College. These universities really have in-depth academic conversations and interviews where the officers will try to probe, how much an applicant really knows about the subject that they, claim to really enjoy. And this is an area where you will be very, very comfortable to talk to them if you have done an in-depth analysis of your subject or your favorite area of interest. Because research is something, while it's a lengthy process, it really helps you sort of narrow it down and really zone into what you enjoy. And this is something that we consistently try to talk to our students about. These conversations are of very like of importance when it comes to admissions in the UK. And we also have some other universities in the UK. We have London School of Economics, we have King's College London, etc. And they also emphasize academic readiness and intellectual curiosity. Blending personal statements and academic interviews. So when you do research, you really have a well-rounded, holistic understanding of your subject area, making you extremely confident when it comes to these interviews and personal statements. Moving to some universities in Singapore, Hong Kong, etc. These are also some areas in their applications where you can include extracurricular components like research. This is extremely interesting. We have the Nanyang Technological University, and they have a very specific scholarship called the CN Yang Scholars Program Scholarship that explicitly values research. It helps students apply for scholarship, students who have done their own original research that is peer reviewed, and that's really, really interesting and of importance. And then we have the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology that also allows applicants to upload any kind of documents and personal statements that highlights prizes and notable achievements, which is also where research fits in perfectly. All right, so in terms of everything that we've seen so far, based on that, one thing definitely becomes extremely clear that research is often optional. It's never something that universities are going to ask you to have, right out of school. But when it is present, it definitely signals something of meaning. It shows that a student has gone beyond their academic and extracurricular engagement. And um, I'm just going to take a pause here and just talk about, I'll just go through the chat and see if there's anything that I can address from the previous section. Sapna, I think there were two questions that were addressed to you. Do you want to take them up?
Yeah, sure. What was the first one here? Is
The first
consult.
one is from Vivek.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't see that one. What does it say? Could you mind reading? Oh, here.
Yes.
Could you please elaborate what you mean by spike? Yeah, so a spike is an area where you specialize in, and it's kind of like you've done a passion project or you've done something with impact. So, for example, one of them could be research in your area. Let's imagine, I don't know, you want to study nursing, and maybe you've done some research in the nursing field on empathetic nurses. But then maybe you've also set up a volunteer charity or set up a charity or a volunteer program for kids at school who want to volunteer at the local hospital or something like that. Your spike would be that you are making an impact on the nursing world. Does that make sense? So it's like you have this passion that you are going towards, and you're showing us that you've done a lot of things in that area. Does that answer the question? Let's see. Yes, okay. All right, good. Okay. And then let's see the other question. There was a question here, is consultancy free? We'll talk about that right at the end. I do have a free kind of gift for you guys at the end. Um, what was the other question? Sophomore, this one. As a sophomore who is still exploring different career paths, how can I build a versatile profile that would keep my options open while helping me narrow down my interests? Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it depends where you are applying. If you're applying to the US, um, it you have a lot more I guess, a lot more leeway to leave your options open with the liberal arts schools because it is quite easy to change majors at most schools, right? So it's not like you need to have everything decided at the beginning, but maybe, for example, you could have an idea of what sort of majors and maybe what sort of minor you might want to do and choose activities that would allow you to do a bit of both. For example, if there's two or three things you're interested in. Um, Colleges are really interested in interdisciplinary at the moment. It's kind of like a trend in the US. So there are lots of programs where you can do, a bit of this and a bit of that. So I wouldn't worry about limiting yourself, right? As long as you are showing that you can make an impact in your community, in one of the subjects that you're interested in, and that you're showing that you have a passion, you should be able to develop that spike. Did I answer that one okay? Okay. Hopefully, if not, just feel free to ask another. Yeah, that's good. Okay, all right. And then I see a couple others here. Um, let's see.
I think I
Okay.
can take the next one,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sapna.
You take the next one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Manya, when building a research profile, how is a review paper, as in a paper that is synthesizing existing research, valued compared to an original research, a new discovery? Which type of publication provides more leverage for future applications? Honestly, I think having original research at such a young stage in your academic journey is a lot of pressure for someone who's still in high school. And of course, we have students that do like a mix of both, or students who want to, do a review paper, or students who want to sort of discover something new or discover something of their own. Um, Review papers are also valuable. Of course, original research papers, they do carry weight because they show that you can create new knowledge and do real research. But that said, it doesn't disregard review papers, because they demonstrate deep understanding. They demonstrate how critically you can think and the ability to identify gaps in existing research. And that is something that a lot of people miss. Like, you need to be extremely observant to be able to, review a lot of papers and sort of synthesize and put them all together and make it extremely coherent. So it doesn't mean that that is unoriginal. So yeah, I hope that I was able to answer your question.
Okay. I think I'll take the next one here. So, we have, I'm not sure who, but it says, what extracurricular activities really stand out on a college application? To be honest with you, it's not really about which activity you do. It's more about showing that you're consistent and dedicated, but also that you have a variety. So you're not just doing one or two activities. Maybe you're doing three or four, but you're doing them in depth. You don't need to do 20 activities, but you want to do activities that you can do in depth over a long period of time. So a few, like, 2 years, for example, or 3 years that you've been doing this activity. Um, and you can show dedication, consistency, patience, those type of characteristics. But also, more importantly, I would say that you're making an impact, right? That they're very much about what impact are you making? How are you making a difference in this world? And if you can answer that through your extracurriculars, it's also going to help you with the essays. Okay, so I hope that helps. It's not really about the specific extracurriculars. Um, and then someone's asked, we have Bibek asking, can you provide tips for when mailing professors asking for RA positions or PhD students, I guess you're asking for, um, asking for like research assistants positions. Um, well, I mean, to be honest, like cold calling is a lot of effort and it only works a small percentage of the time, but I've had students do it and it's worked. So really what you need to do is write a letter that is convincing and shows why your student or you as a student, if you're a student, um, are going to be a good fit to do an internship or to do research with this professor, right? Because yes, they're taking you on for free, but also they're kind of in charge of you if they're supervising you, right? So you want to show them, this is what I've done before. This is my resume, for example, or my CV, that's done up nicely, which a college counselor can also help you with that. Um, here's my CV. Here's why I'm a good fit for your program. Here's why I really love your research and I want to work with you, right? Don't just send a random cold email. Make sure it's very targeted and tailored. I hope that helps. Okay. And then we have another question here about types of essays. We're going to talk about that towards the end, right after Rise finishes with their research presentation part. The type of essays that universities look for in the UK, it's very different to the US. Basically, the main difference I can tell you now is that the US ones are more personal. They want more of a story, whereas the UK ones, because of the nature of the programs over there, where let's imagine you're studying psychology or computer science, that is all you're studying for 3 years. It's not like the liberal arts like the US where, okay, you also have to take our core general knowledge modules. You also have to take a minor or some other courses from a different department. No, in the UK, you're just taking whatever it is you chose to study. So for those essays, and there's only one in the UCAS application, it's only one essay that goes to all of the universities, the five that you're allowed to choose. Um, and this is what I know about my subject, like who she just mentioned, right? Um, when she was talking about the UCAS applications that you saw there on the screen, what have you done to show us you know about this subject more, right? More than just what schools taught you, right? So that's really like a big focus for the UK is what do you know about my subject that you want to study, right? What do I know about my subject? Whereas the US does care about that, but they also care about how have I grown as a person, which is a completely different question. Okay, so we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but yeah, those are two very separate, different types of essays. Okay, and I think there's one more question, right, Kushi?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
imagine you have a background in technological education. Okay, so 1 second here, let me just read it. Noble's question here. Okay, so we're talking about postgraduate, okay. Technical major. Is switching a major easy, I think is basically your question. It really depends on the school in the country. In the UK and in Europe, I'm not going to say impossible, but very close. You basically have to start over. But if you're switching your major, in the US or you're doing a degree in something different than your first degree, it's a lot easier, right? So I would probably focus on the US applications. Oh, and there's another question about a senior here from a senior from Davina as a senior who's going to submit applications in January 2026. Consistency matters more. To start research or to stick to my passion project and strengthen that. I would actually encourage you to do both and somehow tie in your research to your passion project if it's possible, right? Have some sort of common thread there. But as a college counselor, I can help you figure out what that thread is and how those pieces work well together so that you're having like a cohesive story. But I would definitely encourage you to do research because I know we've been talking about all these kids doing great things with research, but it's still not the majority that does research, so you would stand out. So I would recommend that. Yeah. Yeah, and the remaining questions, right, exactly, we'll take towards the end, okay? So I'll hand it back to you, Rishi.
All right, so here is a sample timeline of how things work here at RISE. So, in the first week, you'll be mapped up with a PhD candidate who has a strong background and an expertise in the domain that you want to explore. And they will help you sort of narrow your area of interest down to something that's a little more specific and tangible. It can be like a hypothesis, or it can be a specific like research question. And in the second week, you will be designing your study and you'll be sort of identifying which kind of methods you want to do, if you want to do a qualitative or a quantitative approach. And in the third week is where the writing coach will step in. You will have a separate writing coach who will help you sort of put your research down on paper, make it well formatted and well rounded and scientifically backed. And you will, essentially work on a 12 to 15 page report, anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 words. And in week 6 to 8 is when you will sort of refine your work and just meet different journal guidelines if you're targeting any specific journals, and just clarify your findings and get everything in order before submission. And in the last 2 weeks is where our publications team helps you identify relevant journals, considering your research topic. And every journal has its own criteria, its own guidelines, etc. So our team will help you sort of narrow down on that as well. So that's how the timeline works. And now we're talking about publications. This is something that often comes up in discussions around research. And at a basic level, publication serves a few key purposes. It validates academic rigor. It shows that a student has, sort of gone through a structured process and produced work that meets a certain standard. It contributes to a differentiation element in applications. So a published paper stands out because it reflects a higher level of commitment and sort of the completion aspect. And it also creates recognition and opportunities. Like it can open doors to conferences, further mentorship, and also continued work in the same area. Once you have a published paper, you can sort of extend it and expand on it in the future. So research in the Common App, we have two sections in the Common App. We have the activities section and the honors section. And this distinction becomes even clearer when you look at how these applications are structured. So the activities section is where most experiences go. It reflects what you've participated in, your involvement, your commitment. And the honor section is much more limited. I would say it's more sacred, and it focuses on recognition, things that are externally validated. So when research remains an activity, it shows participation. But when it leads to something like a publication, it can move into the honors category. And this shift is what helps a lot of students create this differentiation that I was talking about. And a lot of students also ask us, I'm just a high school student, what kind of impact is my research going to have? So once a research, paper is developed very well, it can lead to different kinds of outcomes depending on what you want to do. A lot of our students explore publications, or if they want to present their work, they go to conferences and, like meet like-minded people and interact with them. And not every student will pursue all of these, but the research process itself creates a gateway that makes these pathways possible, which is a really, really exciting opportunity when you're at such an early stage in your academic career. And moving on to student spotlights, we just want to give some examples of RISE scholars who have gone through this process. And I'm just going to talk about one student, and their name is Eunice, who was interested in law and technology, particularly privacy. And instead of keeping it broad, they focused on a specific problem, and that was privacy challenges in legal tech platforms. And they walked through that idea with our mentor Andres from Stanford and developed it into a structured research process and got it published in Stanford Intersect. And they were also able to get into Cornell University, where they furthered the research that they had done. So that was like a really, really exciting achievement for Eunice. Similarly, we have Arjun, who got into New York University and got their work published in the International Journal for Multidisciplinary Research. And Arjun wanted to focus on jewelry making decisions because their family has a jewelry business. So they sort of drew inspiration from what they saw growing up. So inspiration is sort of all around you. And it was really, really fascinating for Arjun as well. And our last student spotlight is Timothy, um, whose research focused on predicting election outcomes using social media sentiment models and got their work published in the Journal of Computational Social Science and got into UC Berkeley as well. And these are some very, very lovely parent testimonials. Of course, I'm not going to read it out to you, but it's just something that we really enjoy sharing with people. Like just going back to the part where I mentioned that parents play a very active role in students' research journeys. So this was something that was really heartwarming for us to receive. Yeah, we can move to the next one. So. Yeah, so about Rise, we support students through this process in a structured way. We help them identify their area of interest, refine them into researchable questions, and guide them through the process and connect them with PhD candidates who are their mentors. And this program is best suited for students who are curious about a subject, who are open to working through a longer process, and are willing to commit consistently. Most of our students are in grades 9th to 12th, but we also encourage university students to explore this if they haven't already. In terms of time commitment, the program typically runs over 2.5 months. And we're subject agnostic, but these are most of the subject areas that we've been able to cover so far. And this is just a short, information panel about our program, like the key details that you might want to note. You can please feel free to take a screenshot if anyone would like to. Yeah, we can move on. And these are some of our very, very amazing mentors. You can find more of our mentors on our website. I will link it in our chat. The mentor mapping process is extremely intensive here. We do like to focus on the primary sort of pointer, which is the student's area of interest and the mentor's area of expertise. And then we also like to consider working styles and personality fit. And the third criteria is if the student is clear about whether or not they want to do a qualitative or a quantitative research paper. So we like to take these different criteria and keep them in mind while we're mapping the student with the mentor. And this is our application timeline. You first fill out a form, and then you will be speaking to our founders, Shreyans and Yash, after which you'll have an interview discussion with someone from the team, and then program onboarding. And these are our upcoming cohorts for you to note. If you'd like to take a screenshot, please feel free to. Our summer one cohort is fast approaching. The application deadline is on the 30th of this month. Absolutely. Now we can move back to Sapna. Thank you so much, everyone, for bearing with me and for all of your questions. Thank you, Sapna, for navigating the slides, and over to you.
No problem. Okay, so we are gonna head back into, so let's say you've got your profile built, you've headed over to Rise, you've done their program. Uh, what is one of the main reasons you still need a college counselor to guide you through this? And that's going to be the essays. So one of the most dangerous assumptions going on right now, I'm sure you've all in the back of your minds, whether you're the teens here today or whether your parents are here today, you've been thinking about AI and essays, right? So we've all got our friends Claude and ChatGPT here, which I'm sure you've used for something, right? And the biggest, most dangerous assumption is my teen can write the essays totally by themselves, um, or AI will help them. Okay, so we want to be very cautious with this, and I'm going to take you through now is the different types of essays, and why, where students struggle here, okay, and what you can do to help here. So colleges are watching. That's the first thing with the AI detection reality. I'll be honest with you, it's still quite obvious. I don't know if in 10 years I'm going to be able to say this, but at the moment, it's still quite obvious when ChatGPT is writing the essay. Okay. It's not authentic. It's not realistic. I always tell students, I haven't put this on the slides, but I always tell students they need to be creative. They need to be authentic. They need to reflect on their own experiences and they need to answer the question. And AI won't do that for you. Okay. So what happens with AI essays, right? So we've got tools like GPT-0. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but I'll show you it in a minute. That can actually help colleges and teachers, professors figure out what's most likely written by AI. But even worse than that, that doesn't always work. So some students are often and parents are often worried, what if I write it myself and it flags me as AI anyway? So as a college counselor, I've seen what works to have a solid essay that's truly yours, and obviously keeping drafts of those essays, which we do together. Um, so you can show someone that you've made this essay yourself, um, and really keeping AI out of it. So admissions officers are trained to spot the AI, AI markers, right? And generic soulless essays is what you end up with, okay? And I really like the word soulless because especially for the US admissions process, the Common App essay, the main one, it's a story that they want you to tell. It's not only a story, you also have to reflect on it, whatever the question they're asking you. But we want to see how you've grown over the last few years. And when you dump that into an AI, it's not going to tell us the true answer, right? So your teen's unique voice is going to disappear completely. And I mean, some schools might have some sort of writing tests, on site that they might have happen, in the future. I haven't heard of anyone doing that quite yet. But I don't know if you've heard of this. Some of you might have heard the news that's quite recent, a couple of weeks ago. MIT has decided that applicants for this upcoming year are going to have to do two things. Number one, write an essay completely with AI on purpose, right? And then number two, write your own essay. And then number three, explain what AI did wrong. So they've actually done a very interesting sort of experiment this year. So we'll see what happens with that. That's for MIT, which is obviously quite difficult to get into. But it's just showing that they know that AI is not going to write the kind of essay that they want. Okay. So instead, we want professional guidance, a college counselor that can help you find your story. Because once you have your story, you're going to feel a lot more confident in yourself. If your parents that are here, your teens are going to feel more confident that, hey, I do have a story. Because the number one thing I get teens asking me all the time or telling me is, I don't have a spectacular life. I don't have anything. I'm just a normal kid. I don't have a story to write. I don't have a giant trauma to write about. It doesn't have to be a trauma. It just has to be your story. And I really can help you find that. Okay. Um, and when we're editing, but we are keeping your voice in there. And a lot of what students get wrong is that they are trying to sound the way they think admissions officers want. And sometimes we also have parents that are trying to edit, and then suddenly your Common App personal statement sounds like, someone in their 40s has written it, right? We want to keep your voice there. So we want to make sure every word counts. You've only got 650 words in the US Common Personal Statement. Since we had questions about the UK, that personal statement is completely different. Please do not submit the same statement to the US schools as the UK ones. It will not work. Okay, but as a college counselor, I can show you what the differences are. I touched on it a bit before that the UK one does need more subject matter input and how you are, how you're already like committed to the subject and what you know about it. But I can help you write those two separate types of essays as well. The deadlines and everything are also quite different. So you do want to be planning in advance so you can see which essays to write when. Okay. Because we have the expert knowledge of what it is that schools and admissions officers actually want. And one of my favorite quotes from one of my students, actually, he said that what we do is word magic. Okay, we take your words, we help you find the voice that you have and showcase that. Okay, and AI, unfortunately, it just doesn't know you. It's not a person. It's not real, right? Um, I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to go through the whole demo of how this works, but there is a free version, so feel free to just pop GPT-0 into Google later on and check it out. I ran some of my students' essays through this, one of the drafts I got. Um, you can see that the yellow part, the green part is the part that the tool is convinced is written by a human. The yellow part is probably not written by a human, okay? And so possible AI paraphrasing, it very much sounds like you didn't write this, okay? And colleges have these tools. There's more of them popping up all the time. It's not to scare you, okay? AI can be great for brainstorming sometimes. It can be good for making an outline sometimes, but you also have to be very careful what schools allow. So if you take a look, I actually have a blog post on this that I can send you guys, but different colleges have different requirements or policies, I should say. So, for example, Brown and Cornell, if you go to their websites, you'll see it'll say, we don't want you to use AI for anything. Or it might say, it's okay to use it for brainstorming. Or it might say, brainstorm by yourself. You can use it to structure an outline or something like that. Right? But be very careful because they're very strict on what you can use it for. So then I would just suggest that you don't use it, to be honest. But if you have to use it, make sure that you're using it only for what you're allowed to and not to write your essay because it's really not going to work well. Okay, trust me on that one. It doesn't work. Okay. Um, so here are some real results. This is my student Suki, who was accepted to all 7 of the top programs that she was looking to get into. Um, and so she said that she learned practical and excellent writing skills. But I think more importantly for her was kind of the first part, where a college counselor can give you encouragement and support. It's a stressful process, I'm not going to lie, but when you have guidance, it becomes less stressful and it becomes almost stress-free, because someone is there supporting you, and someone is able to edit your essays for you, work with you, and see, is this working? Is this not working? Shall we start over? Shall we do something else? Shall we look into a different major without having all of the stress piled on just your teen or just your family? Okay. So the exact system that my students use that gets them results is they start early. So they start, I always recommend now, basically, of junior year. So if you're a junior, now is the time to start, okay? If you're a little bit earlier, if you're a sophomore, it's also great to start. Please don't wait until the beginning of senior year, okay? That's a huge mistake because you're going to be stressed with other things senior year, and you also want to enjoy that senior year, right? So get started early on your applications. They build the right profile, including research like Rises that you just talked about, but also internships and passion projects and enough activities, but not so many that it's overwhelming. Enough activities to show that you have an impact and a spike. Okay. And number 3, and in my opinion, the most important, is to write their essays in their own voice and to really, like, honestly, not just as an exercise, reflect on their lives because this is going to help them as like a mental health skill as well for the rest of their lives, not only just to get the college essays over with. Reflection and journaling are things that psychologists recommend all the time. And if your teen can get in the habit of doing this and also complete their college essays in a successful way, it'll be really great for them. So, and then of course, if you're writing in your own voice, you are going to stand out because you are unique, and this is what we're showing them. So here are a few testimonials from my college consulting students. Okay, so students get admitted to their top choice schools. That's not an Ivy League for everyone. This one's UVA, which actually landed on Forbes lists of new Ivies. I don't know if you've seen that, but the last couple years they've released top schools that are new Ivies. They're claiming that people are really succeeding super well at. Okay, Jazaria applied early to Boston College and she got in. Okay. Ciel was a graduate student who got into Oxford and Cambridge, which was impressive. So we were very excited for her. John is my student who called this word magic. And Rhea, just this year actually, was very helpful, was very grateful about how we were able to keep her on track, right? So we can also keep your students on track because students know that they get distracted very easily with many things going on, and we keep the schedules for them. So yeah, we're on it. I'd like to give you a few student spotlights as well. You saw how some of Rise's students did really well in research, and I'm going to show you how some of mine did well in college consulting here. So this is Yuri from last year. He didn't want to share a picture, but he got into Columbia on a full ride scholarship. I was very proud. He didn't start early, I'll be honest with you. It was a very tight timeline, but we managed to do it anyway, so don't panic too much. If you do have to start a bit later. I always recommend starting early, but if you can't, it's still possible. We just had to go very intensely. Okay, he had a great profile, but he didn't know how to articulate it well. Okay, he was doing amazing passion projects, but they weren't coming through on his essays. So we worked with that. He got confidence and clarity from working with a counselor, and he got accepted to Columbia. Okay. He's loving it there. This is Jazaria, who got accepted to her dream college of Boston, Boston College. Okay. She really struggled because she really wanted to include in her essay. So she was Christian, it was her religion, and she was very devoted to her religion. But she was also half Indian and half Italian American. And so she had two very different cultures in her lives every day growing up in the US. And she wanted to explain that in her essays, but she didn't know how. And so that's what we worked together and thinking, okay, how can we make this part of your strategy? How can we make this part of your spike? What impact have you made in these cultures? And yeah, it was really fascinating to work with her. And she got a stellar writing skills, but she also got a better understanding of her own voice. Who am I? Which is quite a question for a 17-year-old, to be honest. Like, who am I? What is my identity? And that's what the US applications are asking you in their essays. Okay. And a couple more, I think this is the last example here. My student Eve, or one more I might have after this. Eve she is from China, okay? And I worked with her just this past year as well. And she got into UCLA, which we were super proud about for fine arts, because UCLA, I'm not sure if you're sure you know about this, but the UCs have been getting extremely hard to get into, especially this year. And UCLA is now at an 11% acceptance rate out of state, 11%, which is really quite low. So she managed to get in. And her main struggle was deciding how to tell her story. She had a lot of stories from China, and she was living it was very cool. She was living in this area where she was in kind of like a middle class area, but right across the street was like quite a poor area. And she was volunteering at the hospital in that area, and she had a lot of experiences kind of between those two classes of people in her hometown. And she didn't know how to articulate that story, but she said, "Oh, but it's not a big deal. There's not a story there." But after we did some brainstorming, there were so many stories, and it was so fascinating. And I think that story is what was compelling enough for them to admit her, along with her profile, of course, but compelling stories hook us in, right? We're humans. We love stories. We love storytelling. And the admissions officers are people. You have to remember. They're looking at it and they're going to be like, "Oh, what a great story." So she gained clarity and an understanding of what admissions is looking for, and also tips for international students. Okay. And the last example I wanted to share with you here is John, who's a graduate student. He was from Bulgaria, actually, and he was struggling with explaining why he wanted to go to graduate school in California for psychology. Um, and he really wanted to use a personal story, but he was struggling to get that story out as well. And so he gained stellar writing skills and also confidence in telling his story to the world, you know? So that was he got into Pepperdine University, which is his dream school for the graduate program. And now he runs, this was a few years ago, and now he runs a successful psychology practice in California with his family. So okay, so my gift to you, we are going to answer questions and everything in a few minutes. Okay, but first of all, I would like to talk to about you about the gift that I'm giving you. Number one, before even the strategy consultation, if you are not yet on my email list, which some of you may not be, we have your emails now, and so you will be getting a freebie from me of um, helping you plan essays, right? So five do's and don'ts for essays. So that's the freebie I give to everyone who comes and joins my community. So I'm going to be sending that to you as well. So you'll have that kind of workbook that you can work through. If you're a student, you can work through it yourself. If you're a parent, you can show it to your teen and help them kind of start brainstorming for their essays. And what I'm offering for you today is a 30-minute free consultation for coming to this webinar or for watching it on replay. You might be watching it on YouTube right now. Um, you get a 30-minute free consultation. We'll review your teen's profile, look at the gaps and opportunities, create kind of an action plan, and see if we're a good fit to work together. Because I would love to help some of you through this process and see you succeed. This is my dream job. I love it, and I'm really excited to have more students this year. But I do want to give you the 30-minute free consultation. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys book that now, actually. I've got a special link. I'm going to put it right now in the chat. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I got just got to zoom out while I copy it into the chat. And if everyone can just go ahead, if you'd like your free call, click on that link, and you'll see that there's timings in the next 2 or 3 weeks, right? About 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks that are open. And it's quite flexible. I have them almost every day. So I'll give you a couple minutes now. Please go ahead to that link and book in your call. Okay, I'll give you maybe 2 minutes. And while you're doing that, once you've booked your call, if you want to just pop any other questions you guys have into the chat, we'll answer them after this. All you need to do is put your name and your email address and then pick a time on my calendar. If you're watching the replay, you can also use the same link. Okay, we'll copy it in the YouTube comments as well. Just going to give you 1 more minute to do that. Okay, so we will give you this link as well, again, in the email that we send out later today. Thank you for attending the webinar, okay? But yeah, it's also in the chat. So I'm just going to move to the next slide now. Okay, so basically, just to summarize really quickly, what we've kind of gone through in this webinar, how to build your best profile for college applications and make it stand out. Okay, how research can give you an edge or a spike in your application, right? And the exact way that you can do that in the next cohorts. And also the worst assumption people have about essays, right? And how you can develop strong essays. Okay. So what we're going to do, there's a couple questions that are in the chat. Feel free to type more if you have more. And maybe I will pass it over to Kushi for the first question there, which I think was about research. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'll address Liha's question. Is there anything I'm missing before that?
No, I think that's the next one. So Leah's
All right,
question.
okay. So Saliha's question is, if we do research, it should be published. How can we do research that are published? So it's not a necessity. Your research can also just be to broaden your own understanding of your subject area. It doesn't necessarily have to be published, but if you'd like to be, a published author or, get your research published in a journal, you can start with a clear, focused question, ideally identifying any kind of gap or ideally, something that you are very passionate about. And you can work with someone like a mentor or an expert to ensure that you have, the right kind of guidance. But of course, that's something you can also sort of explore on your own if you want to challenge yourself. Use, solid methodology and document everything that you see clearly. Have a database of everything you've gone through, all the literature review you've done, and just document it very well in a systematic way and write in a structured academic format and follow the journal guidelines. You might have a specific journal in mind, for example, the Stanford Intersect or the Global Scientific Journal. So follow that specific journal's guidelines. Every journal has its own, and revise based on feedback. Ask people that you trust, ask your counselor or ask someone from your school, and submit it and persist because rejections are completely normal. And yeah, that is my 2 cents. Is there
Okay.
anything else?
I think there's one question for me about the AI tools.
Yes.
So Daniel is asking if one uses the AI tool for the essay and got rejected because of the AI generated essay, will there be feedback explaining the rejection was because of, do you mean if you used AI and got rejected because it was an AI essay, they're not going to give you feedback ever. Whether, like, when they reject you, unfortunately, because they have so many applicants, they don't tell you why you got rejected. Is that what you mean? If you were to use the AI tool yourself, like Claude or ChatGPT, to write your essay? I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but yeah, I would, first of all, I would not recommend doing that, but second of all, no, they're not going to give you feedback at all. Um yeah. They won't give you feedback either way, whether you write it by yourself or not. They don't give feedback, unfortunately. Am I answering your question? Did I understand that correctly?
I think that was the question, yes. But Daniel,
Okay.
please feel free to just confirm.
Yeah. Okay. What other questions do you have for us? Anybody have any more questions? Okay. I've just seen that several of you have booked your 30-minute calls, so thank you for that. And so I will see some of you quite soon. And maybe I'll pass it back to Kushina.
Yes, so I think that's it from our end, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And if you'd, like to connect with us, you have both emails on the screen. And yes, you will have the recording of the meeting. We will be putting it out on YouTube and sending everyone a link to it as well. But thank you everyone for making the time and booking a session with Sapna. And we will keep in touch with you, but please feel free to keep in touch with us as well. And yeah, that's all from my end, Sapna. If there's anything you'd like to say before we close.
Just one person just put Hannah has just stuck another question in here. I'll just answer it super quickly. Dive deeper into the hook needed for the UK application essay and the structure of the essay. I would just encourage you to book a call and maybe we could talk about it then. But basically, it's not only about the hook, especially for the UK essay. As I mentioned before, for the UK essay, you want to be showing that you have deep subject knowledge, especially for Oxbridge. Okay, but if you have more questions about that, maybe book a call and we can go through it. Okay, all right. Okay, I think that's
All
all
right.
for all of us. Thank you very much. You will have the replay on YouTube, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sapna. And yes, everyone, please feel free to drop off. Take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.